Why is it that some people stay broke no matter how much money they make? You've seen it. Maybe you've even lived it. The paychecks come in, and yet the bank account never seems to grow. The bills are always there, the stress never leaves, and the cycle just keeps spinning. It's as if there's an invisible wall between earning money and building wealth, and most people never figure out how to break through it. Let me tell you something that might sting a little. Staying broke isn't always about not having enough money. It's about how you think about money. It's about your habits, your beliefs, and the quiet stories you tell yourself about wealth, worth, and what's possible for your life. Most people believe that if they just earned a little more, everything would change. But here's the truth. If you don't fix the thinking that got you broke, more money will only make you broke at a higher level. That's the cycle we're talking about today. And the good news? You can break it. Now, you might be wondering, is it really just my thinking? Absolutely. Because mindset is the soil where every financial decision is planted. And if your mindset is filled with fear, doubt, or instant gratification, then no matter what seeds you plant, money, opportunities, good advice, they won't grow. But when you shift your mindset, when you start thinking like someone who builds wealth instead of chases money, everything changes. By the end of this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to spot broke thinking, how to replace it with powerful financial beliefs, and how to start taking small actions that will lead you to financial freedom. These aren't theories or feel-good quotes. These are principles that have worked for countless people, including myself. Principles that are simple, practical, and life-changing if you apply them. And if you're serious about changing your future, not just dreaming about wealth, but building it, then I want you to subscribe right now. Because this channel is about transformation, not just information. It's about giving you the tools and mindset shifts you were never taught in school. So hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this might be the moment where your financial life starts to change. Now, let's dig into this. Let's uncover the silent traps of broke thinking, and more importantly, let's learn how to escape them. Because you were never meant to just survive, you were meant to thrive. And it all starts in the mind. Broke isn't just a number in your bank account. It's not about whether you're making minimum wage or pulling 6 figures a year. Broke is a mindset, a way of thinking that keeps people stuck in the same place, year after year, no matter how much money they bring in. And until that mindset changes, the circumstances won't. You can win the lottery, land the dream job, or close the big deal. But if you're still thinking like someone who's broke, the money will vanish just as fast as it came. I learned this lesson early in my journey, and I learned it the hard way. When I was young, I believed money was the answer to every problem. I thought if I could just make enough, everything would fix itself. So I worked harder, longer, and faster. And sure enough, the checks started getting bigger. But strangely, nothing really changed. The stress was still there. The worry, the lack, the scramble at the end of every month, it all remained. Because my habits hadn't changed. My beliefs hadn't changed. I was still operating with the same broke thinking I had when I was scraping by. And that broke mindset was quietly sabotaging every bit of progress I thought I was making. I remember one conversation with my mentor that changed everything. He said to me, "Jim, the problem isn't what's in your wallet, it's what's in your head." I didn't get it at first. I thought he was being metaphorical. But he went on, "You're trying to fix a thinking problem with a money solution. That's like trying to fix a broken compass by walking faster." That hit me. Because I realized I'd been running in circles, chasing more, thinking that more income would solve my problems. But the truth was, I had to change my internal compass, my beliefs about money, success, and value, if I ever wanted to go somewhere new. And I've seen this over and over again in other people's lives. Folks who get raises, who start businesses, who suddenly come into money, and within months, they're right back where they started. Not because they're lazy, not because they don't care, but because their thinking hasn't caught up with their circumstances. They're trying to operate a new life with an old mindset, and it doesn't work. It never has. You can't build a wealthy life on a foundation of broke thinking. That's why this message is so important. It's not just about budgeting or saving or investing. Those things matter, but they come later. First, you have to deal with the thoughts that drive your behavior. You have to challenge the ideas that have kept you small. Because until you upgrade your thinking, you'll keep getting the same results, no matter how much money comes in. And that's the cycle we've got to break, starting today. One of the greatest traps people fall into is believing the quiet voice in their head that whispers broke thoughts. I can't afford it. I'll start saving when I make more. Money is the root of all evil. These aren't just harmless phrases. They are powerful mental roadblocks. Left unchecked, they shape how we see the world, how we manage money, and ultimately, how we live our lives. Broke thinking doesn't start with an empty wallet. It starts with a belief system that justifies inaction, excuses, and poor decisions. Take the phrase, I can't afford it. It sounds reasonable, right? But it's also a mindset that shuts down possibility. Instead of asking, how could I afford this? Or, what would I need to do to make this happen? The mind slams the door shut. No creativity, no solution, no growth. It becomes a permanent limitation. And the more you say it, the more your brain believes it. Eventually, you don't even try. You just accept less, settle for average, and live within a self-imposed boundary that you believe is reality. Or how about, I'll start saving when I make more. That sounds responsible, even smart, but it's one of the most dangerous thoughts you can have. Because the habit of saving doesn't start with more money, it starts with discipline. If you can't save $10 out of $100, you won't magically start saving $1,000 out of $10,000. More money doesn't change habits, it only magnifies them. So if you're undisciplined with a little, you'll be reckless with a lot. That's why broke thinking is so costly. It trains you to wait for ideal conditions that never come, instead of taking action now with what you have. Then there's the big one. Money is evil. That one runs deep for a lot of people. Maybe they were taught it growing up. Maybe they saw people misuse money and concluded that having wealth makes you greedy or corrupt. But money itself is neutral. It's a tool, a magnifier. If you're kind and generous, money will help you do more of that. If you're selfish and cruel, money will do the same. But money doesn't change who you are. It reveals it. Believing that money is evil creates guilt around success, and guilt always leads to sabotage. You'll find ways to push money away, to spend it all, to give it up, just to stay in alignment with a belief that isn't even true. That's the cost of broke thinking. It's not just missed opportunities or empty savings accounts. It's the erosion of potential. The small, daily decisions shaped by fear, doubt, or misinformation lead to habits that build a life of struggle. And it all starts with the thoughts we choose to believe. Because thoughts drive behavior, and behavior creates results. So if you want different results, if you want a different life, it starts by challenging those thoughts. Every thought you change is a step toward freedom. Every belief you upgrade is a building block for the future you deserve. If you want to break the cycle of broke thinking, the first principle is simple but powerful. Respect money. Treat it like a tool, not a master. When you don't respect money, it controls you. It slips through your fingers, disappears without explanation, and leaves you stressed and scrambling. But when you learn to respect it, to track it, manage it, and give it direction, it begins to serve you. Most people never stop to ask themselves, what does my behavior say about how I view money? You see, broke thinking is full of emotional spending. It's spending to feel good, to keep up, to distract, or to impress. And emotional spending is always careless spending. When money comes in, it's gone by the end of the week, not because there wasn't enough, but because there was no plan, no discipline, and no awareness. That's not a money problem. That's a respect problem. I've seen it over and over. People say, I just don't know where my money goes. And that's the issue right there. If you don't know where your money goes, it's because you're not paying attention. And what you don't respect, you lose. Think about it. If someone gave you a gift and you threw it aside carelessly, never looked at it again, how long would they keep giving you more? That's how money works. If you treat it with disregard, it has a way of disappearing. But when you treat it with care, it starts to grow. Early in my own journey, I had to face this truth. I was working hard, making a decent living, but I was always broke. Every month felt like starting over. Then one day, a mentor of mine gave me a simple task. He said, track every dollar you spend for the next 30 days. Every coffee, every bill, every cent. At first, I thought it was too simple. But by day 5, I was shocked. I saw how much was going out to things I didn't even remember buying. I realized I wasn't broke because I didn't earn enough. I was broke because I didn't respect what I had. That habit changed everything. Because once you start tracking, you start noticing. And once you notice, you start making different choices. You don't spend mindlessly. You pause. You think. You ask, is this helping me or hurting me? That's respect. That's maturity. And that's the beginning of financial transformation. Respecting money isn't about being stingy or fearful. It's about being intentional. It's about treating every dollar like an employee you've hired to build your future. Would you let your employees wander off with no direction? Number. So don't let your money do the same. Start today. Track every dollar. Pay attention. Because the first step to wealth is not more income, it's more awareness. And that begins with respect. One of the greatest lessons on the path to financial freedom is the power of delayed gratification. In a world that promotes instant pleasure and quick results, it takes real discipline to say, not now. But that discipline is the key that unlocks wealth. When you can delay gratification, when you can wait and invest instead of rushing to spend, you set yourself apart from the crowd. You choose to play the long game, and that's the game where real winners are made. Most people fall into the trap of thinking that satisfaction has to be immediate. They feel the urge, see the sale, swipe the card, and get the dopamine hit. But what they don't see is the long-term cost. That quick fix, that small impulse, repeated over time, becomes a pattern that keeps them broke. Because when you always give in to what you want now, you rob yourself of what you really want later. And that's the trade most people don't even realize they're making. Let me tell you about two people I knew. Both started their careers around the same time, making about the same amount of money. One of them, let's call him Tom, lived like every raise was a green light to upgrade his lifestyle. New car, bigger apartment, latest gadgets. He looked successful on the outside, but inside, he was drowning in payments and stress. He lived for the moment, but the moments were costing him his future. The other, we'll call her Lisa, had a different approach. She made the same money, but she lived below her means. She said no to new clothes when her old ones still worked. She said no to that vacation when it meant dipping into savings. But what she said yes to was more important. Yes to investing, yes to saving, yes to peace of mind. Fast forward 10 years, and Lisa owns her home, has investments working for her, and carries zero debt. Tom, still chasing checks to cover the last impulse buy. That's the power of patience. Lisa understood what Tom didn't, that every dollar spent today is a dollar that can't work for you tomorrow. She learned to enjoy what she had, while building toward what she wanted. She didn't deprive herself forever. She just learned to wait, and that waiting turned into wealth. If you want to break free from broke thinking, start with one simple action this week. Say no to one impulse buy. Just one. Pause when the urge hits. Ask yourself, do I need this, or do I just want it now? Then choose patience. That one act might feel small, but it's how new habits are built. Every time you say no to something unimportant now, you're saying yes to something far more important in the future. That's how wealth is built. Not all at once, but choice by choice, with patience and vision leading the way. One of the most important investments you will ever make is not in stocks, real estate, or a business. It's in yourself. Your mind is your greatest asset. And yet, broke thinking constantly overlooks this truth. The broke mind believes education ends after school. It avoids learning, avoids growth, avoids challenge. It says things like, I already know that, or that's not for me, or worse, I'm just not smart enough. But the wealthy mind seeks wisdom. It chases growth. It understands that when you expand your knowledge, you expand your potential. People often ask me, what's the best thing to invest in? And I always say, invest in becoming better. Better thinking, better habits, better skills. Because when you grow, everything in your life grows with you. Your income, your opportunities, your confidence. The more you learn, the more valuable you become to yourself and to the world. I remember a time in my early years when I was struggling. I was working hard, but I couldn't seem to break through. I kept hitting a wall. Then a mentor asked me, how many books have you read this year? My answer? 0. He said, that's your problem. You're trying to change your life with the same level of thinking that got you stuck. That hit me. I realized I was waiting for something outside of me to change, when what really needed to change was inside. From that day on, I made a commitment to read every day. I started small, just 10 pages a day. But those 10 pages changed everything. Over time, I developed new ideas, new perspectives, and eventually new results. And it doesn't stop with reading. The wealthy mind looks for every opportunity to learn, from courses, conversations, seminars, mistakes. Every experience becomes a classroom. Every day becomes a lesson. You don't need a college degree to learn how to manage money, build wealth, or create success. You need curiosity. You need hunger. You need the humility to say, I don't know everything, but I can learn. The beauty of it is that education today is more accessible than ever. Books, podcasts, online courses, workshops, it's all at your fingertips. The only question is, will you make the time? Because time is the one thing we all get equally. It's what you do with it that makes the difference. So here's your challenge. Pick one book or course this month and commit to it. Choose something that stretches you, that teaches you something you don't yet understand. Maybe it's about finances, maybe it's about mindset, maybe it's about discipline. Whatever it is, dive in, learn it, apply it. Because every time you invest in yourself, you take one step away from broke thinking and one step closer to the life you were meant to live. Growth is not a luxury, it's a necessity, and it starts with you. You've probably heard the saying, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And let me tell you, it's not just a catchy phrase. It's a truth that will shape your life more than almost anything else. Your environment has power. The people you allow into your life influence how you think, how you speak, and how you behave. If you're surrounded by broke thinking, it's only a matter of time before you start adopting the same beliefs, the same habits, the same limitations, even if you don't realize it. Broke thinking doesn't just come from within, it's reinforced by your circle. The people you talk to every day, the ones you take advice from, the ones you look up to, they all contribute to your mindset. If your circle complains about money, avoids responsibility, makes excuses, and constantly seeks comfort over growth, it's going to be nearly impossible to rise above that. Not because you're not capable, but because you're constantly being pulled back to the average. I remember a season in my life when I was stuck, not just financially, but mentally. I was trying to grow, but I was surrounded by people who weren't. They didn't want to change. They mocked the idea of saving, thought investing was for rich people, and laughed when I said I wanted to be financially free. And slowly, their energy wore me down. I started second-guessing my goals. I stopped reading as much. I delayed taking action. I stayed stuck. It wasn't until I started intentionally changing my environment that things began to shift. One day, I heard someone say, if you're the smartest, most motivated person in your circle is too small. That lit a fire in me. I started looking for people who were where I wanted to be. I couldn't always meet them in person, but I found them in books, podcasts, and interviews. I studied their habits, their thinking, their language. I listened more than I spoke. I watched how they moved, how they made decisions, how they talked about money and life. Slowly, my mindset began to change. I began to think bigger, act with more confidence, and take more calculated risks. And that change in mindset led to a change in results. You don't have to abandon your friends or family to upgrade your circle, but you do need to be intentional about who you give your time and energy to. Find one person who's ahead of you in some area of life. Maybe they're better with money. Maybe they have discipline you admire. Maybe they carry themselves with confidence. Reach out if you can. If not, study them. Learn their habits. Let their mindset challenge yours. Because who you're around is who you become. And if you want to break free from broke thinking, you can't do it in an environment that keeps you comfortable and small. Growth demands change, and that change often begins with who you choose to associate with. Now that we've unpacked some of the core principles that help break the cycle of broke thinking, it's time to move from theory to action. Knowledge without application is just noise. So, if you're serious about changing your financial life and your mindset, I challenge you to commit to a 7-day mindset detox. This is a practical, personal way to start rewiring the beliefs that have been holding you back and replacing them with ones that will move you forward. Let's start with day 1. Your only task is to sit down with a pen and paper and write out every limiting belief you've ever held about money. Be honest. No one else needs to see it. Dig deep. Think back to what you heard growing up. Think about what you say to yourself when things get tight financially. Things like, I'll always be broke, money doesn't grow on trees, I'm just not good with numbers, or people like me don't get rich. Get it all out. This is about awareness, because what you don't acknowledge, you can't change. Day 2 through day 6 is about taking those limiting beliefs one at a time and replacing them. Each day, pick one belief from your list and challenge it. Ask yourself, is this really true? Who told me this? And what would happen if I chose to believe something different? Then, replace that belief with a new, empowering thought. If your belief was, I can't save money, your new thought might be, every dollar I save builds my future. Now, take one small action to reinforce that new belief. Maybe you transfer $10 into savings. Maybe you decline a purchase you don't need. The action doesn't need to be big. It just needs to affirm your new direction. By day 6, you'll have shifted 6 limiting beliefs and taken 6 meaningful actions. You'll begin to notice how different you feel, more confident, more in control, more aware. And that's the point. This isn't about quick fixes. It's about building momentum through small, consistent changes in how you think and act. Then comes day 7. This is where you pull it all together. On this day, I want you to write a financial intention statement. Not a vague wish, but a clear, bold declaration of the financial future you're committed to creating. Start with I am or I will and make it powerful. Something like, I will live below my means and invest in my future, or I am building a life of financial freedom through discipline and smart decisions. Read this statement out loud every day. Let it become your new standard. This 7-day mindset detox won't fix everything overnight, but it will set the foundation. It will show you just how powerful your thoughts are and how quickly your reality can begin to shift when your beliefs align with your goals. Start today. Your future self will thank you for it. Changing your mind is changing your life. It may sound simple, but it's one of the most powerful truths you'll ever embrace. Every shift in your external world begins first in your internal world. You can't live a rich life with poor thinking. You can't build lasting wealth while clinging to the same old beliefs that kept you stuck. And that's why this process, the uncomfortable, sometimes slow, often messy process of shifting your mindset, is not optional. It's essential. But let's be honest. Change is not easy. Doubt will show up. Resistance will whisper, this is pointless. You'll hear that voice telling you it's too late, or that you've made too many mistakes, or that you're just not wired for success. You might even feel a sense of shame, regret for years lost or opportunities missed. That's okay. It's normal to feel that way. Every person who's broken free from a limiting mindset has faced that wall of doubt. The difference is, they didn't let it stop them. You've got to understand, resistance isn't a sign you're failing. It's a sign you're growing. It means you're stretching beyond what's comfortable. And that's where transformation lives. Not in the comfort zone, but just beyond it. If you wait until it feels easy to change your thinking, you'll be waiting your whole life. But if you move forward despite the discomfort, if you choose to believe something better is possible, even when it doesn't feel real yet, that's when everything starts to change. Wealth begins in the mind. That's not just a nice quote. It's the foundation of everything. Before the savings account grows, before the debt disappears, before the investments start compounding, the mind has to shift. You have to start thinking like someone who's already free. Someone who values discipline, who sees money as a tool, who makes decisions based on vision, not impulse. That mindset becomes the blueprint. And discipline, that's the bridge that brings that blueprint into reality. Discipline is the quiet power behind every successful life. It's not loud. It doesn't always feel exciting. But it shows up day after day, making small decisions that add up to massive change. Discipline is choosing to save instead of spend, to learn instead of waste time, to act instead of delay. And those choices, stacked day after day, become the path out of financial struggle and into stability, into growth, into freedom. So if you're feeling doubt right now, good. It means you're aware. And awareness is the beginning of choice. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be committed. The life you want isn't out of reach. It's just on the other side of the beliefs you're willing to change and the discipline you're willing to practice. Don't run from the mindset work. Run toward it. Because once your mind changes, everything else follows. That's the shift that sets everything in motion. Let's bring this home. If there's one message I want you to walk away with, it's this. Broke is a mindset, not a destiny. It's not something you're born into and stuck with for life. It's not about what your parents did or didn't do, or how much you make right now, or where you live. It's about how you think day in and day out, about money, about yourself, about what's possible. The good news is you're not locked in. You're not trapped. You can change. Because mindsets aren't fixed, they're learned. And what's learned can be unlearned. Everything we've talked about in this video, respecting money, delaying gratification, investing in yourself, upgrading your circle, taking on the mindset detox, it all leads back to one simple truth. Change your thinking, and you change your life. That's not just a catchphrase. It's a strategy. It's a daily choice to replace fear with faith, excuses with effort, and doubt with discipline. And every time you make that choice, even in small ways, you chip away at the cycle that's held you back. Now, I want to ask you something personal, and I want you to answer it in the comments. Not just for me, but for you. What's one broke belief you're leaving behind today? Maybe it's the idea that you're not good with money. Maybe it's the belief that you'll never be debt-free. Maybe it's the thought that success is for other people, but not for you. Whatever it is, name it. Write it down. Declare it. Because what you expose, you can erase. This is your first step in making a public commitment to a private transformation. And as you type your response, remember this. The moment you stop accepting broke, thinking as your truth is the moment you start building a new future. The life you want isn't just a dream. It's a possibility waiting for the right mindset to open the door. You don't need to have it all figured out today. You just need to take the next step and then the one after that. One belief at a time. One action at a time. Let me leave you with this. If you don't change your thinking, your circumstances will stay the same. That's not a warning, it's a wake-up call. Because once you realize that the key isn't out there somewhere, but already in your hand, in your thoughts, your choices, your habits, then the power shifts. It's no longer about waiting. It's about doing. So go ahead. Write that belief down.